Hi, so we're talking about classroom management, and I wanted to just say first off that I'm super thankful about the placement that I have. Miss M, my co-teacher, is amazing with classroom management, so it's great to be able to learn from her because I really feel like she, has a really great, a lot of great, methods and systems in the classroom. So I get to take advantage of that. And the stuff that's working for me, aside from just following her leads on that stuff, is I'll talk about some of the things that I have done on my own, that I've added on my own. And the first one is to try to establish routines as much as possible. I do think that helping the kids form good habits is going to be the most helpful thing. So one of the things is like in the hallway, or during, when we line up, anytime when we're transitioning to another space in the school. It's a very old school, so the stairs are, they're wooden, and a lot of kids love to stomp on them. So I take the class in their line and I wait for them to quiet down, obviously with a little bit of prompting. But the last things that I say before leaving the room is I'll say, we're going to use quiet voices, quiet feet on the stairs. And, I say it every time. So now I can kind of be like, how are our voices going to be in the hallway? How are our feet going to be in the hallway? So the kids answer, and they've had a lot of improvement with their line behavior, since I've been there. So that's something I feel proud of, especially on the stairs. Cause I know there was some kids that, they really like that stomping up the stairs, and it's really disruptive, for other classrooms. And I know most of the other teachers in the building are pretty flexible about, those things with this old building, but I try to be as mindful and sensitive to the fact that, it can be very disruptive. So that's one place that I've implemented these habits and methods. And another place is when I do support for students, like for instance, in math, we were working on a lot of word problems last unit. And so Miss M didn't teach the cubes method, but I really think that it's a great method. I think that it's helpful even outside of math, like when you're doing any kind of difficult questions, especially with, when you get into standardized testing, some of those, the mental burden on a lot of these questions gets pretty high. So the cubes method is circle the numbers, underline the question, box the keywords. The E can either be eliminate extraneous information or evaluate the process, and then S is solve the problem. So I use that every time I do help. I help with the students, and I've seen a lot of, students really improve their math using it, especially with the word problems. Another thing that I've used now that we've gone on to the time and money unit is I do skip counting as part of our line activity. So it'll be like 5, 10, 15, 20. Just skip counting by fives. They're second grade, so they're not quite into the, into multiplication, but I do think that they're capable of doing skip counting by fives and twos. And I do want to start doing 15s before we wrap up our time part and get into 25s once we get into our money, because obviously using change, that's another one. So change is great. We have 5s, 10s, and 25s all to skip count. So it does help give them a task in the hallway, and I think that that's a helpful routine. One of the places that I'm struggling with, or that I, not necessarily struggling with, but a place that I need to improve is with my authoritative voice. Miss M is really great with it. She's a veteran teacher. I have a little bit more of a, flexible style, soft style. And I think that, I noticed as a sub even, that students took advantage of it. But luckily, as the more I've been in this class, there's a lot less of that, looking for boundaries that kids all love to do. And they will love to do it no matter what. I mean, they do it at home. Anybody who is a parent of children knows that they are always going to be trying to find those boundaries or test them. So yeah. And that's another place where I think that, routines and rules really come in handy. So that's a place that I'm trying to work on, is, kind of curbing my own sensibilities towards flexibility. So if I see a student that's, whispers into their neighbor's ear during an activity, or during a reading activity or something like that, I will often just say like, oh, maybe that's just like, real quick thing. But more often than not, it escalates. So, and it does become a disruption. So where Miss M will be like, she'll say their name, or she'll, signal them in another way, just say, excuse me, or clear her throat. I need to get better with that stuff so that I can keep things moving before, having to address some sort of a disruption. And for sharing a resource that's been effective for me, I've been mentioning habits and routines a lot, and there's a book called The Power of Habit by a psychologist called Charles Duhigg that I highly recommend. It's been very, very informative for me in my own productivity, understanding how to get myself on task, how to keep myself from falling into bad habits, and try to change habits. So the main theory is that there is a cue, a routine, and a reward. And that's where our behaviors sort of cycle around. This cue, signals our brain or signals our behavior to react in this way. And then the reward is kind of why we're doing it. So the idea of changing a habit is, you're going to always have that cue. The cue stays the same. The reward has to stay the same in order for the behavior to change. But the routine does change. So, if, to use an example of somebody maybe trying to quit a bad habit like smoking, there's a lot of different cues for a person who has that, that addiction. It might be when you get into the car, you light up, or when you walk out the front door, you light up. So you just find a new response to those same cues. And, the reward from the smoking is obviously the nicotine, which is the stimulant. And I'm not going to say that smoking is easy to quit or something like that is easy to quit, but you just find another thing that gives you that same type of reward. So if you are used to starting the car and then lighting up, it's like you start the car, you grab a piece of gum, or something like that. And you still get the reward of that, that little, the stimulant, like you'll just switch nicotine to sugar, or something like that. And, so in the classroom, it could be that there's a lot of calling out. You might be telling a story and be like, my favorite ice cream is cookies and cream. And some kid might I like strawberry. And then it turns into, I like it with sprinkles. And, all the kids get involved. It becomes a disruption. So, you want to change the routine to hand signals. So you'll say like, we're going to do thumbs up, or we're going to, go like this for like same. And so you just build that in, and, the reward there is feeling validated or feeling included. You get the same thing, especially if as a teacher, you call it out. You say, hey, we're using our hand signals. Oh, you feel the same way. Oh, you have, you also like ice cream, or you also like, going to the beach, or whatever it is that you're talking about in the story. The cue is the same, and that's, your instruction. The response changes from verbal call outs to, hand signals. And then the reward is that validation and that inclusion. And, as a teacher, you, in order to build this, you do have to set it up. You have to be proactive and, reinforce the expectations at the beginning. And then you have to reinforce the expectation, or reinforce the desired behavior as it happens. So as a kid says, oh, they exclaim, and you just say, oh, we're using our hand signals, right? So that's where you kind of are correcting, but the positive reinforcement side is when you see them doing it, you call that out too. You say, oh, I see, Alec is using his hand signals. That's great. And that calls it out. That draws attention to the behavior that you want, and that models the behavior that you want. So it really is, it's a great book. Once again, it's Charles Duhigg's book called The Power of Habit. So that's my resource that I use a lot, both in the classroom and in my own routines. So classroom management is something that I'm working on. I do think that it's essential to the, in the toolkit of teachers. Everybody has different styles, but I'm really inspired finding out, different ways to make it work in the classroom. So looking forward to hear everybody else's inputs on this topic. Thank you.